Hello and welcome to the space between ideas. I'm Blaine Gates. Welcome again to the show. Another day, another busy day. And I'm sure that's a busy day for you, so let's move on. Now, the thing is about evaluating courses of action and the idea of using appropriate processes to select courses of action. It, um, it means that we have to start to really consider alternatives. Really consider alternatives. Now, if you think back in your life when perhaps you made a decision, and the decision that you made, you felt like you were forcing yourself to make a decision. You were forcing yourself. You felt like, I'm not entirely comfortable with this decision. I can't even see like all of the positives and all of the negatives. That maybe like, usually there's like one big negative that just pops out and there's like one big positive that pops out, at least, right? And then it's like, well, if we just look at that one positive and that one negative, the positive seems like it could be the right thing, because that I want that positive thing in my life. I want that positive thing in my business. I want that positive idea. I want it. That thing. I want it. But then if you have that thing, then you also get that negative part, right? So it's like, well, that negative thing. And the thing is, sometimes we don't really think about like what is the significance of that negative? Like, what is the significance of that positive over time? Is there some other way to achieve that positive over time? And what is that negative? And what is that? And how is that negative going to build up over time? And is it going to go so heavy that you cannot bear it anymore? Is it going to get so heavy that it's like that negative, I got the positive in my hand, but the negative is like, it's just a heavy burden on my shoulders? Because possibly that one negative is actually either by itself quite a bit more heavy than you anticipated, or maybe it brings with it some of the other negatives. So you really have to, and okay, so like this can be difficult for people because it depends on your perspective. It depends on your age. It depends on your experience level. And some people, they haven't had enough experience in their business career to understand that certain types of choices, certain types of behavior will inevitably lead to certain types of results. So we have a cause and we have an effect, right? So we have this thing we call create effects, right? And those effects, like what is the effect that you will create? Maybe you think that there's this cause, there's this principle, there's this metric, there's this idea that you want to work toward that you think is going to be the solution. It's that thing that you want. It's that positive. And maybe like you can't actually connect it with the effect. You don't actually know yet what the effect will be. And not only is like, even if you have the experience, so this is like an example that I was kind of talking about earlier, where I listened to a lot of financial news and economists, and everybody has relatively the same facts. And even people who have the same facts will come to different conclusions. And so, I mean, there's like a lot of lucky people, there's a lot of experienced people, there's a lot of knowledgeable people, there is a lot of hypothesis, there is a lot of guessing and thinking and believing. And it's like, what is the outcome actually going to be? So after you have chosen the metrics, all right, so you've chosen the important things to you, and you've evaluated the differences, all right, so you've said, well, this metric is the most important, and this is the second most important metric, and this is the third most important metric. And based on these metrics, here are the differences. And this is how I would consider plan A, because of metric 1 and 2, what? Declare the significance. All right, so today, day number 79, is step number 6. Step number 7, declare the significance. What is the significance of the difference? All right, so how does it affect? How does it affect entities? How does it affect individuals? Like, who knows what your metrics are? Maybe you chose something like customer satisfaction. Maybe you chose something like employee satisfaction. Maybe you chose something like profit as the most important metrics in your decision. All right, so if you chose profit, does that mean that the employee satisfaction is going to suffer to some degree? If you chose profit, does that mean what? In the short term, maybe it means something. In the long term, it means something. So how does it affect your organization? If you chose employee satisfaction, you want to spend a lot of money on your employees. You want to give them all the space and time in the world. Maybe in the short term, it affects your business, the bottom line. Maybe you have less money. Maybe you have, what? What are some of the negatives? What are some of the problems short term? And then maybe in the long term, this investment breeds more what? Innovation or loyalty or creativity or better attitudes when handling customer service. All right, so what's the significance? What is the result going to be? And like as I was explaining earlier, it's kind of difficult to really know what the long-term effect is going to be. And it could be even difficult to figure out what the short-term effect is going to be. And it's interesting that if you have bought the book Create Crucial Insight by Thomas Buchholz, in fact, in his first example, there's nothing written in the box for declare significance. And on the second page also, there is nothing written in the box called declare significance. So, I mean, maybe it could be difficult, even for a physicist, to guess the effect upon the organization and what the effect will be upon people, those synergies. All right, so it says what? It says, find the significant point in this information. All right, so this is another way to look at it. What is the significant point? All right, so before we were talking about what is the influence upon the entities and what is the influence upon people. You could also say, what is the significance of this piece of information? Also, you can think about like, all right, so when you're thinking of the significance, when you're evaluating these scenarios, are you thinking about qualitative significance, or are you thinking of quantitative significance? Are you thinking of relative significance, or are you thinking of absolute significance? All right. So there's just like, these are themes for metrics. These are themes for talking about criteria that you use when you're evaluating scenarios. So these are different ways that you can evaluate scenarios. This is a process that you can use to make sure. And, you know, one interesting thing is that, you know, it's taken us so many days to get through each and every one of these themes. And, you know, there's still quite a few themes left in this checklist. So we're not stopping here. But perhaps this is something you can think about. What is like, why are there so many steps in this process of evaluating courses of action? Because possibly from a physicist's point of view, these are the necessary steps. He included all of the necessary steps. But of course, if you take a step back, you can also think and realize that when you are making important decisions, if you do not need to come up with a solution today, you know, maybe you think, like, I mean, and this is the point. So if I think back to one of the biggest mistakes of my life, and I was really forcing myself to go one way with this decision, and I did not feel comfortable making this decision. I did not feel comfortable during the decision-making process. And I put things into my life to numb myself to the decision-making process and to possible consequences of the decision. So if you currently are at home, wherever in any country, and you're feeling pressure because of this lockdown, if you're feeling pressure because of a variety of different pressures in your life. And if you're not really sure what to do, then hopefully over the last 5 or 6 days, you've been able to, one day at a time. Actually, we've been talking about these courses of action for like almost 30 days. And I hope that during this process, you've been able to keep up each day, one day at a time, and just add a little bit more information and add a little bit more information and think a little more deeply and take, and if you have some problems, like if you have substance abuse, if you require or you think you need some type of substance to, this cat is jumping on my computer. All right, I'll talk. Cat, get off. Hold on a second. All right, sorry about that. I was trying to be like all serious. If you don't make decisions, like I mean, how many YouTube videos, like how many comedy videos, like go on YouTube and search. Like there's this one comedian, and he's talking about his experiences with different substances, and he talks about decisions, certain types of chemicals have enabled him to do, and there are certain things. For example, he talks about alcohol, and alcohol allows him to do some certain things which are absolutely crazy. And then he also talks about marijuana and what happens and how it actually restricts him from doing certain things. Now, the point is not whether one substance enables and one substance restricts. All right, so he's actually kind of promoting one thing over another. I'm saying that maybe it's time to let go of these chemicals. Maybe it's time to make decisions with a clear head. Maybe it's time to straighten up your life. Maybe it's time to step by step make better decisions. Maybe it's time to start looking for websites that can, like Jordan Peterson, who is going to tell you, like, take responsibility, make a schedule, take, bite-sized pieces, work at things step by step, all right? So, like, maybe it's time to let go of some of the things that are holding you back. It's going to be a long process. There will be a long process to get to a fully functional life. And you won't really be fully functional until you're doing something that you really enjoy doing, most likely. Because people who have substance abuse problems, in general, they do those things because they like doing those things. So in order for you to be able to really focus and enjoy your career, it has to be something that you like. And it's going to take some time to build. And the way you do that is day by day. This is Space Between Ideas. I'm Blake Gates.